Discussing about the command words, that is the directives in the question, and the second aspect is how you can utilize those directives to structure your answer. Two important aspects with respect to the answer writing, and as far as directive and structuring is concerned, one is the question statement, whether it is unidirectional or whether it is bidirectional. And second, the formulas. 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. You need to understand the four core aspects of your answer writing. If the directive is to analyze or evaluate, their expectation is that you are cross-examining or you are examining that particular theme from both sides of the coin. One is the positive, second is the negative, or you are providing the benefits as well as highlighting the issues and challenges. When they ask you estimate, so basically what they are expecting you is to provide the data. Good morning. Am I audible? Yes. Okay. So let's start with our second session. The session will be basically with respect to the directives and structuring of your answer. Okay. So basically, today, we'll be discussing about the command words, that is the directives in the question, and the second aspect is how you can utilize those directives to structure your answer. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's start. First of all, see, you need to understand the four core aspects of your answer writing, right? The first, obviously, is the content. Just a second. Okay. So first one, obviously, is the content, right? Second, the demand understanding, which decides your structure. And last is the presentation aspect. So in the yesterday session, we have already discussed about the schedule. We have already discussed about how you are going to build the content, that is through the X factor, notes, and how you are going to develop your presentation aspect, that is through the toppers answers and the post-test discussions that you will be having with your mentor after your every test, right? Today, we will be discussing upon these two core aspects of the answer writing, which is first, demand understanding, that is decoding the question based upon the directive. Okay, so today we will be understanding the meaning of the directives. Okay, and second, how you can utilize those directives or how you can analyze or understand those directives to structure your answer. Okay? So firstly, you need to understand the purpose of the directives that are there. Okay, so each and every UPSC question has a directive attached to it. You won't find a single UPSC question where they haven't given a directive. So if they are giving directive to each and every question, then there must be some, and if they are giving different kinds of the directives, that means there must be some purpose or there must be some expectations from the UPSC as to what kind of the content or what kind of the response that they are expecting based upon that particular directive. Okay? So first purpose is clarify the depth of response that is required. That is, for example, if the directive is elaborate, then in such cases, what you have to do? You have to, whatever points that you are generating, you have to explain that in detail, right? Similarly, if they have given the directive as to illustrate, that means whatever point you are writing, they are expecting you to substantiate that particular point using the example or using the data, right? Similarly, if the directive is to analyze or evaluate, their expectation is that you are cross-examining or you are examining that particular theme from both sides of the coin. One is the positive, second is the negative, or you are providing the benefits as well as highlighting the issues and challenges. So the depth of response that is required is determined by the directive. Second, the structure of your answer will be decided upon the directive. For example, if the directive is to examine or evaluate, right, so you will be giving 50-50 weightage to the both sides of the coin. If the directive is discuss or elaborate or describe, in such cases, whatever the statement that is given, you will elaborate upon that statement only, right? Third, as per the directive, you can break down the question. That is, if it is evaluate, analyze, or do you think, then basically you have to break down that question into two parts. One is on the positive side, second is on the negative side, right? We'll go into the detail of the meaning of each and every directive and how toppers have structured their answers based upon the directives, right? And last is the test the different skill set of the aspirants. Okay, remember, like I said in our previous sessions also, all the three stages of the UPSC, prelims, mains and interview, have specific purpose, right? So the prelims, the purpose of it is to check your competence. That's why even the people who have revised 4 to 5 times or dedicated 5 to 6 months for prelims couldn't clear. But those who have given only 2 months and use the smart techniques, they clear, because prelims is the test of your competence. Mains is the test of your knowledge. And interview or personality test is the test of your character. As mains is the test of your knowledge, all those aspects related to the knowledge or skills are tested based upon the directive. For example, when they ask you to explain a particular concept, they are checking your conceptual clarity. When the directive is analyze or critically evaluate, they are expecting your analytical ability or capacity, right? Or when the directive is comment or do you agree, do you think, they are checking your opinions, right? So directive is also the test of your knowledge and analytical capacity. Okay? So this was the theory. It's completely fine even if you forget everything that I said till now. This is just the theory, just to get you the idea about the importance of it. Okay? Now we'll come to the practical aspects of the directives. Again, how you have to decode the directives and how you have to structure your answer. Okay? So the first and most important aspect is the question statement. Okay? So question statement has become the most important aspect of your answer writing. So if the first thing that you will be doing while writing any of the answer is to read the question twice. Okay? Based upon the question itself, irrespective of the directive that they have given, sometimes you can frame your answer. Okay? The second is obviously the directive and third is the formulas. Now we will discuss detail on each of the aspect. So let's start. The first, question statement. So generally in UPSC, there are two kinds of this statement. Okay, first is the unidirectional statement, and second is the bidirectional or multidimensional statement. That is, when the statement is unidirectional, there is just one demand into the question, or question has just the one line of thought. Whereas in bidirectional or multidimensional questions, there are two sides of the coin or multiple dimensions that they want you to elaborate upon. Okay? So let's check by example. So this is the unidirectional question. So if you see this question written by Animesh, the modern technologies such as blockchain, ChatGPT are powerful tools with immense potential to transform agriculture into more efficient and sustainable sector. Discuss in context of India. Okay, now if you see, this is unidirectional question where they are simply asking the importance or the significance of blockchain and ChatGPT to transform agriculture. Okay? They haven't asked you the issues with it or anything. The statement is unidirectional, which is asking about the significance of ChatGPT and blockchain for agriculture. Okay? The bidirectional question would have been the modern technologies like blockchain and ChatGPT have immense potential to transform agriculture, but there are structural challenges to inculcate or to incorporate these technologies. This is then becomes the bidirectional, where they are asking significance as well as the challenges in it, right? But here this is the unidirectional statement where the statement is only asking about the positive aspect. And then in such unidirectional question, what you have to do, your structure will be determined as per directive. You can now, if you see the same question, the directive that they have given is discuss. So discuss as in you don't need to highlight the issues or anything. You can simply go by the directive and you can simply discuss the significance of blockchain ChatGPT in transforming agriculture. Right. So if you see the answer of Animesh, role of ChatGPT in agriculture, role of blockchain in agriculture. That's it. He hasn't covered the second aspect of it. Similarly, if they change the directive, if instead of discuss, if they give you examine or analyze, then apart from the significance, you also have to highlight their challenges. Okay, so in unidirectional statement, the directive becomes important. Okay, this is the one way. Okay, where 100% of your space is going to the statement, explaining the statement that they have given. Okay, here also, or you can use 70-30 approach, where 70% of your weightage is going to explain that particular statement and 30% you are going beyond the demand to highlight the issues and provide the way forward. So if you see, this is the same answer or the same question written by Aditya Srivastav. What he has done, so again if you see the potential of blockchain ChatGPT here, maximum weightage he has given to the potential. So 6 points he has given for the potential, like Animesh, but 30% he has given for the issues. Right. Again, if it would have been examined, then on the one page itself, he would have addressed the significance. On the second page, he would have covered 5 points of the issues. But as the directive is discussed, he has given 30% weightage to this. Okay, so both the aspects are fine. Both the ways of dealing with the questions are fine. Okay, to deal with the unidirectional question. Okay, if you have more content with respect to discuss, you can continue with the same, or you can follow the approach of Aditya Srivastav. Okay, so in the unidirectional question, your structure will be determined by directive. But again, second aspect is the bidirectional or multidirectional questions. So in multidirectional questions, irrespective of the demand of the question, you have to give equal weightage to the both sides of the coin. You have to highlight both positive as well as negative. So if you want to see the example of it, so this here, if you read the question, it says the institutions of eminence scheme was conceived to develop world-class center of higher education in India. That means this is the first part where they are talking about the was conceived to develop world-class center. Basically, they are talking about the significance of institution of eminence scheme. But 6 years later, it is yet to become game changer as intended to be discussed. Okay, so directive is discussed, it doesn't matter. So in the question only is bidirectional, where one direction is they are asking you about the objective, second is they are asking you about the limitations of the scheme. So here also if you see Animesh importance, that is he has addressed the first part, importance of institution of eminence. Second, shortcomings, he has given the equal weightage, and then this is the way forward. Okay, so when the question is bidirectional, like this one, where they are using the word like but, okay, they are talking about the objectives or the intended outcome as and the reality check. Okay, so if the statement itself in the question is bidirectional, okay, you have to address both aspects irrespective of the demand. If you see the same answer written by, this is of Medha Anand. So if you want to compare the marks of Medha Anand, Aditya Srivastava and Animesh Pradhan, to Aditya Srivastava had 132 in GS2, Medha Anand had 131 and Animesh had 127. So all of them had got above average marks in the GS paper 2. So any of the approaches that they have followed, you can incorporate. But I would recommend you to go through the Aditya Srivastava answers. Okay, just to understand how to write the answer from multidimensional perspective. Okay, so if you see the same question, this similar pattern was used by Medha Anand, where she has also given equal weightage to both the sides. IOE scheme, where she had provided the elaboration of the scheme, that is the first part, develop world-class centers. Then she had talked about the issues in it, that is it to become game changer, failure to become game changer, and then way forward. Okay, but if you go through the answer of Aditya Srivastava, okay, he also has followed the similar approach. Only thing that he has done, first part again they have delivered, that is rather than highlighting the objective, he has talked about the positive impact of the institution of eminence scheme. Then again the limitations, inadequate has become game changer, and then way forward. So the point is, when the statement itself is providing you the dimensions, okay, in such questions the directive doesn't matter. So in this question, rather than discuss if they would have given any other directive, if they would have given elaborate, if they would have given examine, critically discuss, do you think, do you agree, elaborate, any directive, it wouldn't have mattered, your structure would have remained same. Okay, so reading the statement given in the question is the most critical aspect. And that is why when we do the post-test discussion, we make sure that student is first able to read the statement properly and then understand the keywords from the question, and all the keywords are properly elaborated upon in its answers. Okay? Is it clear with respect to the unidirectional and bidirectional statements? So when the statement is unidirectional, your answer will be based upon the directive that they have given. But when the question statement is analytical or bidirectional or multidimensional, in such questions, your structure will be based upon the statement, not upon the directive. Is it clear? Ye clear hai? Yes. Any doubts? Yes. Any doubts up till now? So before we shift to the actual answers or the meaning of the directives. Okay? This is the first aspect. Next is coming to the formulas. Okay? So basically, there are 3 core formulas that those who have attended my Smash PYQ sessions, they would already know how to utilize those formulas depending upon the directives. Right? Those who haven't, then try to understand it now. So the first formula is 70-30. Okay. The second is 60-40, and third is 50-50. This is basically the space management that you will be doing in your answers. Okay? So 70-30 when you will be using when the directive is discuss, comment, elaborate, then illustrate, okay, or any illustrate, okay. So when you have directives like this, okay, what you will be using? You will be using the 70-30. So 70% of your weightage will go to the statement, and 30% will be the counter argument. So this is the 70-30 approach of Aditya. Here those statement is unidirectional, where they are saying modern technologies such as blockchain, ChatGPT have potential to transform agriculture. It is unidirectional statement. Basically, they are just asking the significance of it. So there he has followed the 70-30 approach, where maximum of it, his weightage is going to his potential. That is, he has talked about it in 6 points. Okay, you can go for 8 points also, 4 points each, and then just 30% of the weightage or just 3 points for the issues, and then just 2 way forwards. This is your 70-30 approach. Okay, you can further concise it. You can increase the score part up till this, and here you can simply use issues and way forward in a tabular format, and just even if you give 2 each, then also that would suffice. Okay, that is 70-30 approach, or you can also follow Animesh, where maximum weightage is given to the statement. Then next, after 70-30, you have the opinion based questions. that is 60-40. In the questions where they are asking about do you think or do you agree or how far, okay, or in your opinion. In such questions, wherever they are asking your opinion, okay, in such questions, you have to follow the 60-40 formula, where 60% if you agree with that preposition, if you agree with that particular statement, then 60%, that is 7 or 8 points, will come into the agreement and 40% will come into the counter argument. Okay, but whenever, even if they ask you, do you think, do you agree, or in your opinion, so even if they ask you your opinion, in such questions also, you have to provide the analysis of that particular theme from positive as well as negative way. Only thing, if you agree with the statement, you give maximum weightage to that, and 40% you give to the counter argument. Okay? Then when we'll discuss that particular agreement, a particular directive, I will show you the answers written by the toppers. Then the third is the 50-50. So 50-50 is when we use, when the directive is to evaluate, to examine, to analyze, to assess, to critically assess, or examine. Okay, this. So when these directives are there, you will be giving equal weightage to the arguments in favor or positive side and arguments against and negative side. Okay, it's about the space management. So as soon as you see the directive, you should, if it is a 10 marker question, immediately first thing that should come into your mind is up till 1.5 page, I will be elaborating upon the statement given. Then I will be using a small table to highlight the issue way forward, and then I will be doing the conclusion. If you get any such kind of the directive as to evaluate, etc., so 1 page will go to the positive side, 1 to the negative side, and half the page on the third side will go to the way forward. Okay, that should be your structure when the directives are these. Okay, so this is the 50-50 formula. Okay, is it clear? Yes. Any doubts up till now? Okay. Okay, now we will move on to the actual meaning of this. So this was the analysis of the directives from last 5 years. So if you see across the papers, in majority of the questions, the directive is discuss. Okay, so 15 in paper 1, 25 2, 25 3 and 14 in 4th. Okay, and then the explain and the less is define or illustrate, etc. Okay, so majority of the directive will be discussed only. So you have to remember, first identify whether the statement is unidirectional or bidirectional, and second, use the 70-30 approach. Okay. Now the meaning of the discuss. So when they ask you to discuss something, so what UPSC is expecting with respect to the discuss is they are expecting you to present these several viewpoints associated with that particular theme. For example, the significance of blockchain and ChatGPT in agriculture. And the directive was discussed. So what they were expecting? They were expecting you to highlight the significance of ChatGPT and blockchain in agriculture. So they were expecting you to cover the different viewpoints or the dimensions within agriculture which can have the benefits of the ChatGPT and your blockchain. Now, so simply you can classify the points with respect to their significance in agriculture inputs, their significance in agriculture yield, their significance in agriculture marketing, and their significance in agriculture value addition. This is the multidimensional perspective within the agriculture. So the different dimensions of the agriculture, that is with respect to the input, yield, monitoring, marketing and value addition. In all those dimensions of the agriculture, how ChatGPT and AI can play the role. That was the meaning of discuss. There, the 70-30 approach you can use. So if you see the questions, now if you see, discuss the consequences of climate change on the food security in tropical countries. Again, they have asked about the consequences. So your consequences can be, yes, majority of your consequences will be negative, right? So 70% of your weightage will go to the negative consequences, but there can be some positive consequences. Okay. It will be lesser compared to the negative consequences, but there can be some. Okay. For example, the desert area can receive the higher rainfall, and that can result into the cropping in those areas. Okay. So 1 or 2 points you can give on the positive side as a counter argument, but 70% will be on the negative. Right. Then here the multidimensional question or the bidirectional question, despite India being one of the countries of Gondwana land. Okay. So basically you have to highlight the importance of being a country in Gondwana land. Means basically you have to highlight the potential, India's coal reserves or the overall India's mineral reserves. That was the first part. And second, its mining industry contributes much less to the GDP. The second is reasons. So basically, you have to highlight the potential of India's mineral resources and then reasons. So this will be your 30% part and this will be your 70% part. Okay. This is how topper decode the question. Okay. Here discuss ho, examine ho, evaluate ho won't matter. Okay. Then discuss the natural resource potential of Deccan Trap. Again, it is a unidirectional question. All you have to do is natural resource potential. So Deccan Trap mein jo bhi natural resources hai, you have to elaborate upon that. Okay. So the different natural resources you have to elaborate. So this is how you have to decode the question, if it is unidirectional or bidirectional. Okay. If in bidirectional question, if they would have given you here, instead of discuss, if they would have given you examine, then the first part would be 50%. That is 1 page. It is 10 marker. And the second part would be issues. Okay? That. So that is the meaning of directive discuss. Is it clear? Yes, you can conclude by the way forward also. I will show you some questions of the toppers. So if you see, this is the answer of Aditya Srivastav. Again, as fertility rates decline in India. Okay. This is the first keyword. the decline in fertility rate in India, future demographic concerns center around aging population and weak social security system discuss. Okay, so the first part of the question, fertility rates decline in India. So apart from introduction, he had given the data with respect to fertility rate decline. Okay, he can address this part into the introduction also. But the important aspect being addressing the each and every keyword. Okay, so this part he has addressed. Then we need to acknowledge future concerns. So aging population and their concerns, and weak social security, their concerns, maximum weightage, that is 70% weightage to this aging population and weak social security system, and then this is the way forward. Okay. If you see the same answer of Animesh, here what he has done, no, this is the another question of him. Okay. So again, youth are capable of identifying themselves with global identity and connecting with events and experiences outside their countries. In this context, discuss impact of globalization on various aspects of youth identity. Again, the one keyword was the global identity. Okay. So introduction, he has talked to you about the youth, and then he had elaborated upon this keyword global identity. In previous question also, he had provided the data with respect to the keyword declining fertility rate. Here also global identity he has elaborated. And then discuss the impact of globalization. So the positive impact where he has given 6 points, negative impact where they has given 6 points. Because impact has both positive aspect, equal positive aspects and equal negative aspects. Okay, so he has given equal weightage to both and then concluded with way forward. Again, as this is a bidirectional question where they are asking about the impact. Okay, impact can be positive as well as negative. Okay, so अगर यहाँ पे discuss की जगह evaluate होता और analyze होता, then also your structure wouldn't have changed. You would have to address with the same structure. Okay, where you are giving both equal positives and equal negatives. Okay. Then, should it not multiple demand or part question rather than multidirectional? Yes, both are the same. Okay, multiple demand and multiple multidirectional, both are the same. Okay. Multidirectional means, or see, bidirectional or multidirectional. The previous question was bidirectional, where they are asking you the impact. Okay. The one direction of the impact is positive, the second is negative. There can be few questions where there is the multidimensionality. But if you don't want to remember multidimensional, if you are getting confused with it, remember bidirectional. Okay. Then comment. Again, just remember 70-30 approach. But if you want to go into the conceptual understanding of it, so when they ask you the comment, so basically in comment, they are asking your brief opinion. Okay, brief, otherwise your structure will be same as discuss. Only thing, while giving the conclusion, you give a brief opinion in the comment related questions. Otherwise, structure will remain same. Okay, so if you see the examples of it, thus, the collegium system has become a victim of its own success with concentration of power in the hands of few, leading to question about its legitimacy. Comment. So is it a bidirectional question or a unidirectional question? Yes, what do you think? Yes. Is it a bidirectional question or multidimensional question? Or, is it a bidirectional or unidirectional question? Yes? What do you think? Is it a bidirectional question or unidirectional question? Unidirectional, right? Because a question, if you see, the statement is only talking about the issues in collegium system. Collegium system has become victim of its own success with concentration of power in the hands of few, leading to question about its legitimacy. Okay, so no, sorry, it is not unidirectional, it is bidirectional. The victim of its own success. So first you have to highlight the success of it. And then majority, as the majority of the weightage, so 70% should go to the issues in it, and 30% should go to the first part. So here if you see the Animesh answer, he has also missed this part, being victim of its own success. But if you see the answers of Aditya Srivastava, okay, this. So here it has become victim of its own success. That is, he has highlighted the issues in 5 points, but the counter argument, that is 70%, that it is not entirely true. Okay, that is 30%. And then he has given way forward. Okay, so here if you want, you can stretch these points to 5 or 6 or 7 also, and at the end briefly use the table to highlight the counter argument. Not, you can't use, you can briefly, rather than 3 points, you can also give 2 points here and then provide a brief way forward and conclusion. That is also fine. But here Animesh has also missed this. Or this is Medha Anand, where she has highlighted the evolution and victim of its own success and then way forward. Okay? Yes. The next. Okay, so as it is a bidirectional question, directive wouldn't have mattered. Even if the directive would have been discuss, then also your structure would have been same. Then in the conclusion, like they have also done, they have given the opinion. So in comment only remember this, don't give the neutral conclusion, try to give your opinion or the futuristic conclusion. Okay? Judiciary must thrive on the principle of transparency and legitimacy, unlike current collegium. So basically he has taken a stance against the collegium. Okay? Similarly, if you see Medha Anand, thus she has also taken the similar stand. Sunlight is the best disinfectant and SC needs to come out clear. Again, she is taking a stance against this collegium system. Same thing with Aditya Srivastava. He has given the way forward and again he has also taken a stance. Okay. So that is the only difference that you will be having in directive comment. Next is enumerate. Again in enumerate, you can use the 70-30 approach only. Only thing, if in discuss or comment we are writing 10 to 12 points, in enumerate try to write 12 to 13 points. That's it. Because in enumerate they are simply expecting you to provide the maximum dimensions. Okay, that is the only difference. Otherwise, the 70-30 approach will remain here also. ठीक है. So Pala period is the most significant phase in the history of Buddhism. Again, unidirectional question. All you have to do is provide the significance, but try to incorporate more points rather than 10 to 12. Write 12 to 13 points. Then elucidate. Again, with respect to the elucidate, see here what they expect, it is basically the opposite of enumerate. So in enumerate they are asking you the maximum dimensions. In elucidate they want the explanations of your point and the substantiation using your relevant examples. So in enumerate, again keep your points to 11 to 12 or 10 to 11, but try to substantiate the maximum of the points using the examples. ठीक है, इतना टेक्निकल में नहीं जाना है, दैट्स फाइन. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग यू द एग्जांपल और द थ्योरेटिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द कंसेप्ट्स. इतना रिजिड नहीं होना है आंसर राइटिंग में. ऑल यू हैव टू रिमेंबर इज दीज फॉर्मूलाज फॉर डायरेक्टिव्स एंड you have to understand whether the statement given is unidirectional or bidirectional. That's it. Okay, I am just giving you the theoretical explanation of these. इसमें इतना rigid नहीं होना है. ठीक है, again I am emphasizing. For example, if you see again Aditya Srivastava, he has again used 70-30. Bhagat Singh made a real breakthrough in terms of revolutionary ideology, goals of revolution and forms of revolutionary struggle. Again, the three dimensions they have already given: revolutionary ideology, goals and forms of revolutionary struggle. Elucidate. The only thing, each and every point if you see is substantiated using the proper examples. ठीक है, so hunger strike, bombing. So maximum of the weightage, 70% of the weightage has gone to the statement कि how he had made breakthrough, real breakthrough in terms of the revolutionary ideology, and briefly he has given the counter argument. अगर ये नहीं भी दिया तो भी चलेगा, that's also fine, but he has strictly followed the 70-30 approach. And then conclusion. Same answer if you see of Animesh, he hasn't given any of the counter argument, he has just given the elaboration. So if you see, Animesh has gone with the directive. So as it was elucidate, if you see each of his point is properly explained, even the length of the point has become more. Okay, it has been explained properly and proper substantiation has also been given. Okay, so both the aspects are fine. Either you use 70-30 or you go with this. Okay, because statement itself is unidirectional. There is no the counter argument there. Okay, same, despite being destructive. Okay, so despite being destructive in nature, volcanoes are critical for existence of human life. Again, statement itself is bidirectional. One aspect is talking about destructive and second is the importance of volcanoes. Right? So if you see again, he has addressed both. Again, यहाँ पे आप as the statement is bidirectional, ये डायरेक्टिव मैटर ही नहीं करेगा. वहाँ पे डिस्कस भी होता तो भी सेम आंसर रहता, इवेल्युएट होता तो भी सेम आंसर रहता, एनालाइज होता तो भी सेम आंसर होता. ठीक है, स्टेटमेंट इटसेल्फ इज बाइडायरेक्शनल, दोनों पूछ रहे हैं. सो वोल्केनोज आर डिस्ट्रक्टिव, सो दिस इज द डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ कॉज्ड बाय वोल्केनोज, एंड देन क्रिटिकल फॉर ह्यूमन लाइफ. ओनली थिंग कैज दिस इज द कोर डिमांड. ठीक है, इसमें उसने 6 पॉइंट्स दिए, यहाँ पे 5 दिए. ठीक है, सो मैक ज़्यादा वेटेज शुड कम टू दिस. सिमिलरली सेम आंसर ऑफ. ठीक है, ये क्लियर है. With respect to elucidate, only thing you remember in elucidate is try to explain your points properly and try to provide the substantiation. Okay, that's it. So in elucidation, they are expecting a elaboration of your point. sometimes you have the habit of just writing the subheadings and then providing the examples. So rather than doing that, in elucidate, okay, and in elaborate, try to explain your point briefly. Next is elaborate. Again, elaborate is also same like enumerate, where you expand on the idea beyond basics. Basically, that also means whatever dimension you are covering, just don't give the example of it. Try to elaborate briefly upon it or try to explain that point. Okay. Again, 70-30. अब यहाँ पे instead of elaborate, they can also give you elucidate or illustrate or discuss. Both can be given. That is fine. Okay. Again, with respect to the estimate basically, when they ask you estimate, so basically what they are expecting you is to provide the data. Okay. Or facts. Okay. So this basically data or facts, majorly it is asked in the GS paper 3 and with respect to the provide the estimation of poverty in India. Okay, providing the estimation of skills, okay, in India in that way. So you see the question, estimate the contribution of Pallavas of Kanchi for development of art and literature in South India. Okay. In such, agar estimate means basically what you have to provide, like I said, the data and examples related to it. Okay. Approximations and assumptions. So range of figure, methodology, caveats or examples. Okay. Basically with respect to the measurement. Okay. So in that context, they give you the directive estimate. Again, no need to worry. We will continue with the same approach. Okay, define. Now here, remember one critical aspect. Okay, so with respect to the define, so sometimes the question that they ask on the define is define potential GDP and explain its determinants. What are the factors that have been inhibiting India from realizing its potential? So define, only remember that they can ask you with respect to define or what do you mean by this concept. Okay. One critical aspect that you need to remember in such kind of the question is that this is your core demand, because this is a specific directive that you have. Okay. So when such directive is there, majority of the aspirants, what mistake do they do is they just define that concept in the introduction and then they directly shift to the next demand of the question. Never do that. Okay. So when the directive is like this, define or what do you mean, by default your introduction will become the definition. But after that, briefly use a diagrammatic form or briefly use the diagrammatic representation to highlight its feature or classification or any kind of the types. Okay. Or if it is related to any of the this, so define One Health approach, if that is the question. Then after the definition, you just provide the key pillars of One Health approach. Or if they ask you define good governance, then definition of the good governance will be introduction. After that, you highlight the key 8 pillars of the good governance. Only when you define and then provide some other information related to that, then only you will address the key demand. Because it is a core demand of the question, you can't address a core demand in 3 lines. Okay, remember this critical aspect. If you see this is the answer of Ishita Kishore. What is soil amendment? So basically again define soil amendment and evaluate the benefits and concerns. Okay, so soil amendment definition she has given, but then she has given the features. Okay, so only when you do this, you address this core demand, because this is a core demand. यहाँ पे ही खत्म करोगे, you won't get full marks for this. Okay, just remember this definition and then some sort of the features or classification, whatever extra information you have related to that concept, you can give. Okay, and then only you shift to the second demand, that is benefits concerns. Okay, is it clear with respect to define? Next is the illustrate. So basically, when they ask you to illustrate something, okay, so illustration generally involves substantiation of your points using facts, that is either data or examples. And second aspect, they also expect you explanation through diagram. Okay. So when the directive is illustrate, at least remember that for maximum of your point, there has to be some sort of the substantiation. If you see the answers, the Constitution of India is the living instrument with capabilities of enormous dynamism. It is the constitution made for progressive society. Illustrate with special reference to expanding horizons of the right to life and personal liberty. That means you have to explain the significance of constitution and you have to illustrate your point. So suppose if you write the point with respect to is a living instrument, capability of enormous dynamism, means basically significance of the constitution. So constitution as living document can be your subheading, and under it you will be illustrating by giving specific examples of expanding horizons of right to life and personal liberty. So you can give MC Mehta case or right to clean environment. Okay? You can also give Bandhan Mukti Morcha case. You can give right to privacy judgment, Puttuswamy judgment. Privacy is also included. So constitution is living document and this is your illustration using this specific example. Okay? So in this way you have to structurize your answer. Okay? So in elaborate and enumerate, what we did, we tried to explain our point. But in illustrate, we do the explanation through the examples. Okay? That's the difference. Okay? Next. So if you see this, here also specifically, if you see, mountains are fragile ecosystems vulnerable to adverse impact of climate change and other anthropogenic interventions. Illustrate with examples and highlight the initiatives taken. Okay, so this, if you see each point, he has substantiated. Yeah, maybe he should have given with the examples. This is specific data. So this is what we call as the illustration. Okay, where maximum of your points are substantiated using the examples. This is illustration. Or you can also use the diagram. Okay. This is with respect to illustrate. Next is explain. Okay. So basically it is again similar to the discuss and comment. In explanation, just what they are expecting you. Generally they ask you the concept, explanation of the concepts and the reasons behind it. Okay. How does the melting of Arctic ice and glaciers of Antarctic differently affect weather patterns and human activities on Earth? Explain. Okay. So basically what is the phenomena of cloud burst? So basically what you have to do in introduction, you have to define cloud burst and then you have to explain mechanism of cloud burst. Okay, so again explain why suicide among young women is increasing in Indian society. Again you have to give reason. Okay, or if they wanted to change the directive, they would have framed this question in this way: discuss the reasons behind rising suicide among young women in India. That would have been their directive. Okay, but when they ask you to explain, they will either ask you the mechanism of it or the reasons behind it. Okay, then what are the environmental implications of water bodies into urban land use? Again, they are asking you the implications, that is consequences. Explanation of those consequences. Okay? Yes. If you see, these are the answers. The existence of, again it will be 70-30 only. Existence of relative deprivation is an important aspect in constructing the argument for regionalism. Explain with examples. So we have started with this. Then for explanation of the mechanism, he has used the flowchart where he has explained how relative deprivation leads to the regionalism. So threat to culture livelihood result into relative deprivation, then this result into subjective realization of objective, that is the antagonism between the two neighboring states, which results into regionalism. Okay, so he has explained it. So basically the explanation of the mechanism of relative deprivation and then the reasons behind it. Okay, so here also if you see, he has cleverly used 70-30, where 70% of the weightage has gone to the relative deprivation, and briefly he has given other reasons. So apart from relative deprivation, these are the other reasons. Okay, so this is other reasons: administration, backward development of backward regions, and then conclusion with way forward. Okay, so again 70-30. Same question if you see of Animesh. Here also in introduction, then relative deprivation leading to regionalism, he has explained it properly. He has also used 30% other factors. Okay. Next is the describe. Again, describe is similar to the explain and elaborate. Okay, only thing in explain and describe, you also have to explain the mechanism of it. जैसे रिलेटिव डिप्राइवेशन का डायग्राम उसने आदित्य श्रीवास्तव ने यूज किया था. So when they ask you the explain, if the theme permits, you can highlight the evolution of it using the flow chart. Okay, same thing you can do in the describe. Okay. Second, describe directive is specifically used for a particular concept or policy, and what they want you to describe is its features, provisions, or characteristics. Okay, this. Otherwise, nothing will change. Majorly, describe will be the factual answer. Jaise, describe the characteristics and types of primary law. Describing distribution of rubber producing countries. Okay, so basically you have to give the list of the rubber producing countries and you have to highlight it into the map. Okay, then with respect to the describe economic and political benefits of Indian diaspora, again you have to describe it. Okay, again here rather than describe, they can also give you discuss. ठीक है, so it won't change much. Discuss its economic and political benefits. It will again a 70-30. Okay. Now this is the one set of the directive. Okay, so up till now we had the one set of the directive where we have used the 70-30 approach, or there is not much difference in terms of the meaning of the directive. Now this is the second set where we will be shifting to the 60-40. This is 60-40. Okay, so here, because it is the opinion based questions, to what extent? Okay, so whenever they ask you to what extent, so generally these are asked with respect to the policies. Okay, जैसे for example, to what extent the Food Security Act has been able to alleviate the problem of food security in India. Okay, so when they ask you to what extent, that means you have to highlight the positive impact of it, and you have to highlight the limitations of it. Okay, and depending upon its overall analysis, whether positive impact is more or limitations is more, you will apply 60-40. So just say if you talk about Manrega, so 60% of the Manrega has positive impact. So more points you will talk about on positive, and 40% you will talk about limitations. Okay, again, don't be too rigid, but just make sure to what extent you are highlighting the both positive impact and negative impact. And when you talk about the positive impact, here your points need to be substantiated with specific data. Okay, it can't be just arguments, it has to be data. Okay, and here you will be using 60-40 approach. Okay, so for example, what you need is you need to substantiate, or you need to provide the evidence, that is the data or degree of impact, which is also you will be providing through the data. Okay, if you want to see to what extent in your view Parliament is able to ensure accountability of executive. So here on the positive side and on the negative side. So here the negative side is more, so maximum points you will write on this because of the dominance of the executive or the majority of the executive in Parliament. Then non-functionality of your parliamentary committees. Okay, less than, I think only 17% of the bills were referred to the parliamentary committees. So such kind of the data you need to provide. Okay, on the positive side, जैसे role of opposition. Okay, you can also no confidence motion. You can give the instance. Okay, or the speech, this discussion on the important issues on such matters. Okay, but each and every point that you will be writing, it needs to be provided or substantiated using the specific evidence, that is specific example, or better is specific data. Okay, then to what extent in your opinion has the decentralization changed governance landscape at the grassroots? Again, positive sides of it, negative sides of it, but your points need to be substantiated with data. Okay, and how and to what extent micro irrigation would help solving India's water crisis? Again, the benefits of micro irrigation. So wherever you are providing water use efficiency, there you have to provide the specific data. So water is use efficiency of the drip irrigation is more than 80% and sprinkler irrigation more than 70%. Okay, so such kind of the data you need to provide to substantiate. Okay. Again, this is also same. Do you agree? Do you think if you see this question, here they have combined both. To what extent in your opinion? So effectively they have combined both. Okay, so the meaning of both the same. To what extent and do you agree, do you think? Okay, here again 60-40 approach. So if you see the answer of Animesh first. As per recently released report of Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, there is urgent need to limit size of government in India. Do you agree? Okay, so effectively 60-40, where 60% will be in, so as per size of government needs to be limited because, so arguments in favor, these are the points. Okay, and then counter argument. So, but counter argument, these are the points. And at the conclusion, way forward. Okay. Similarly, the same answer if you see of her, Medha Anand. Okay. So, 60% of the weightage she has given to the first part because she agrees with it. And 7 points. And this 4 to 5 points in the counter argument. And then way forward. Okay. And in this also, only thing you remember that in both kind of the question, so even if they have asked you opinion, you have to provide both sides. But like the directive of comment, here also in conclusion, you have to give your opinion. Okay, so jaise, if you can see the conclusion given by Animesh here. Okay, the government should be as large as representatives, enough to forerunner of democracy. Okay, again he has taken a balanced stand, but it should be the opinion. Okay, so in line with PM's war cry of minimum government, maximum governance, EAC's recommendation require quick actions. So specific opinion she has given that the recommendations needs quick actions. So that means she is agreeing with the statement. Similarly, Aditya Srivastav, he has also given way forward and he has also talked about minimum government, maximum governance. So effectively, he has also given the same opinion of rationalizing of the this size of the government. Okay, so generally in conclusion, you try to give your opinion. Here also if you see what factors have led to the recent acceleration in trend towards de-dollarization, do you think dollar will lose its dominance? So when they talk about do you think, the first part is factors, these are the factors, but complete de-dollarization not possible. That is the argument against, then argument in favor. Okay, there are signs of de-dollarization and these are signs of de-dollarization. Okay. Here also if you see the conclusion, he has given the opinion and he has provided the way forward in conclusion. Okay. And here also if you see Animesh, clearly factors for de-dollarization, that is again he has combined factors and arguments in favor of de-dollarization and argument against. Okay, here also it is 60-40 if you see. Okay. Then this is the second part where we go 60-40, where if you agree with that statement, you give one extra point in that, okay, and remaining on the counter argument, but in conclusion, you try to give your opinion. Okay, even if it is a balanced opinion. Okay, even if it is a neutral opinion, it has to be like futuristic. Then the third aspect or the third formula based directive is 50-50. So critically examine, analyze, evaluate all of such directives will carry 50-50 weightage. Okay, here not 60-40, it is 50-50. Okay, this. And again, for all those directives, it's equal that you have to provide both sides, arguments in favor, arguments against. So if you see the answers of Animesh, civil services reforms must go beyond this. The capitalist class generally remained ambivalent in their support to Indian National Congress till 1940s. In this context, analyze the varying positions of Indian capitalist class throughout the national movement. The one thing that I observed in the answers of Aditya Srivastava is whenever the directive is either analyze or critically analyze, so whatever arguments he is giving, he is always giving the reasons for it. Okay. This. So the first, they remained ambivalent. Again, here it is a bidirectional statement. So the directive doesn't matter. They are talking about capitalist class remained ambivalent. That means they supported sometimes, they opposed sometimes. So basically you have to elaborate upon both. So they largely remained ambivalent because first supported and then they withdrew their support. So he has provided both sides. Only thing what he has done is always whenever he has providing any of the argument, he is providing the reasons behind it. They only supported when. Okay, I will show you one more answer of such kind. Okay, this. I think this one. Then assess. It is again same. Generally, when they ask you to assess something, the assessment is basically upon the impact. Okay, so you have to assess the impact or the potential on positive side and on negative side. Okay, so basically they ask you to judge the significance of any particular policy or scheme, okay, or the impact of it. So here, so assess the main administrative issues and socio-cultural problems in integration process of Indian princely states. So here you have to provide the main administrative issues and socio-cultural problem, okay, their assessment of it, and then the other factors. Okay. Again here, assess the significance, that is the impact of wildlife sanctuaries in rainforest regions of India. So the assessment will involve positive impact and limitations. Okay, you have to provide both sides with equal weightage. Okay, here also assess the role of, so again role of National Legal Service Authority. So basically they are asking you to assess the impact of NALSA. Again the positive impact and the negative impact or the limitations of it. Okay. Again evaluate is also same. So evaluating basically involves the pros and cons. Okay. These directives can be used interchangeably. You just remember the formulas. Okay. Just for example, if you see here, rather than assess, they can also give you evaluate. Evaluate the role of NALSA in rendering free legal aid in India. The structure wouldn't change or the demand also wouldn't change. Okay, you just remember the formula 50-50. Okay, so if you want to see, again for examine also same. Okay, if you see the answer, again see this is The recent acknowledgement of sex work as a profession by Supreme Court is first step in ensuring basic rights and equality for sex workers in India, but merely a first step. Okay. If you see, is this question unidirectional or bidirectional? Yes. Right. It is a bidirectional question where they are talking about it is merely a first step. That means it is a good step, but their transformation or upliftment will require more steps than this. Okay, so the positives of this step you have to highlight, and the challenges of this step also you have to highlight. Here directive doesn't matter. ठीक है, एग्जामाइन की जगह कुछ भी हो सकता है, वहां पे डिस्कस भी हो सकता है, तो भी स्ट्रक्चर विल बी सेम. ठीक है, so it is merely a first step. So this is first step, but only merely as the positives of it and the challenges of it. ठीक है, and then way forward. But if you see what Animesh has done in this one is he has not elaborated upon the positives of this. Only thing he has done is the limitations. Okay, he should have written at least some points on the positives. Okay, and then on the limitations of it. Okay. Next, again, what are the different dimensions of food security? Examine India's status. ठीक है, यहाँ पे आपको directive could have been assess India's status. Again, that would have been same. India's status in terms of ensuring food security with regard to these dimensions. Again, India has been successful. That is positive side and challenges. If you see 4 points, 4 points. Okay, so 50-50 of the weightage. Again, same with Animesh. Only thing he has done is he has gone for the further classification based upon the directives given in the question. So different dimensions and examine food security with regard to these dimensions. So what he has done, he has made these dimensions as subheading and highlighted both positives and negatives. So food availability, positives, negatives, food accessibility, positives, shortcoming, affordability, positive, shortcoming, nutrition, positive, shortcoming. Okay, so 50-50 approach. Only thing he has gone for the more better approach. Okay, in this particular question. Okay, so this is the summary of it, of the directives. So overall, don't worry about or don't go into the detail of meaning of each and every directive. Just remember two important aspects. The one is the two important aspects with respect to the answer writing and as far as directive and structuring is concerned. One is the question statement, whether it is unidirectional or whether it is bidirectional. And second, the formulas 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. यही याद रखो बस, कौन से डायरेक्टिव में 70-30 करना है, कौन से में 60-40 करना है, कौन से में 50-50 करना है, ये याद रखो बस. Beyond that, there is no need to go into too much of the technicalities of it. ठीक है, I have given you the theoretical explanation wherever possible. कि जैसे illustrate बोला तो you have to provide the diagram or you have to provide the examples for each point. If they give you the directive as explained, so try to elaborate the process or the mechanism of it. Okay, these are the fine points. If possible, do it. Otherwise, it's fine. But be rigid with respect to these. ठीक है, क्वेश्चन अगर बाय डायरेक्शनल है तो फिर यू फॉरगेट अबाउट द डिमांड. ठीक है, यस. एनी डाउट्स? Yes. Yes, only if you have the ready flowchart in your mind, then only draw it. Don't unnecessarily waste your time in deciding for it. ठीक है? Yes. Any doubts? Okay. So we will end our today's session. Tonight you will be having a session of Arvind sir with respect to, I think it's on the key focus areas. And my next session will be day after tomorrow, where I will be analyzing the key things that have worked for the toppers over the years. So I will be discussing the answers of AR1 of last 5 years. Okay guys, all the best.